He wants them because he actually wants more ecosystem because they want them to pay the money. He knows everybody is a co-optation. Question is at what level? Will he ever be offer all applications in the world? Probably not. That's like maybe 100 years. We all won't live that long from where we are, right? So I think his goal is to offer enough things to build applications. He's putting enough laws and APIs that are not documented so that the partner and ecosystem will thrive. So he's not against partnerships. He's just saying that use your common sense, don't do something in my wheelhouse that I'm going to offer in my roadmap. How will that you know? You as a VC or an entrepreneur, you better know common sense and where their roadmap is going to come. You have a history of what they have done for the last 10 years. So all other startups who are complaining about this, they did a bad mistake or not thought through where Amazon will come. So they deserve to learn.
Just curious, will ServiceNow be another victim like this for Amazon then?
Probably not, right? See, for us, we get back to that SaaS application. Exactly the same thing. When which I see it is, if you are a full application and a full service and an application, then from an Amazon world, they need people like ServiceNow. They need people like Salesforce. They need people like Microsoft, right? They probably need even people like SAP. From a full application, full solution problem, right? I'm talking about more competent players, I'm talking about a technology players, or I'm talking about a simple visualization that you are doing or a simple database. So those things will where I see most immediate problematic in the next 12 to 18 months or 2 years. And again, to your question, 2 years from now, the landscape may be different. If you suddenly see Amazon offering all those, yes, possible. Right? Again, whatever I know, all of us, and you know, we don't have visibility beyond 18 months. Technology is changing so fast.
Thank you.
Good question.
I have a question.
I think somebody's getting the mic first.
If you have a technology startup, what do you suggest to get any marketing co-founder or maybe marketing your technology website or maybe startup actually?
I didn't follow the question. Repeat that again.
I mean, if you have any technology startup and if you are the founder or co-founder of the that startup, I mean, what do you suggest to get the marketing? How do you suggest? I mean, how do you approach? Or I mean, here Bay Area especially, I can see. I mean, especially most of people are tech oriented. So how do you find marketing co-founder or maybe marketing guys?
Okay, so I mean, there's no one solution fits all. I mean, you have to look through what works for you. But in general, it's not like you create a technology and you go outsource marketing to some firm or some people to do it. I don't think those things work that well, in my opinion. I think back to that go-to-market, if you're building a product, first of all, you shouldn't be building a product. You should first think about what's your go-to-market going to be. Not I call the communication, building a website. That's not that marketing can come later on. But as long as you talk about the product marketing, you talk about your TAM, your market opportunity, your go-to-market, who should I sell with, what should be the value prop, what should be the use case, what should be the first call deck the person is going to make, what should be the elevator statement, what should be the hook. Those things is also part of the marketing. So if you have not thought through in building a product, that's where the fundamental problem that I talked earlier about. That should happen early on. It's not like you build something and then you hire somebody and say, take this cake and sell it, saying the best slice of bread in the world. That won't work.
One other question.
Yes, sir. He's going to come with your mic so that I think they're probably recording.
So you have covered the gamut in terms of technology, and both on the product side and the service side. I want to get your take on horizontal versus vertical. If you go talk to VCs, and I've not seriously talked with my new company, in my previous company we talked to many, the stereotype is every segmentation is vertical. Manufacturing, healthcare, retail, etc., right? But when you architect, engineers often end up building several things which are horizontal. So I want to get your advice, because I'm wrestling with that. How do you tell a vertical story when some of the underpinnings of how you are built are horizontal, because that's the way the solution you work?
Yeah, this is one of those very difficult questions. I'll see what I can do justice. So there are a couple of parts of this vertical and horizontal that you run into as a startup. Let's see. So one thing that I talk about when I talk about vertical and horizontal is, as a first of all, you want to build there's a fundamental thinking in the valley or anywhere outside is, it's better to do an application in the solution than come with a platform play. That's what I mean by horizontal. There are good and pros and cons. If you do an application solution, that something gives you the focus. You're focusing on the right customers, you're asking 10 customers in the same space, so you can do iterations and get a good solution. That's the reason why people talk about going after as an app and a solution. From a go-to-market, it becomes easy. Yet, the application, whether it's a thin app or a thick app that you create, it also has a limited, what I call, limited opportunity to be a great play. Like if you want to be a platform, like whether it's a platforms or whether Oracle is a platform or be a Logic, or think of any large platform plays out there, right? Platform plays tend to be horizontal. They start horizontal and they continue to be horizontal, right? So there's an opportunity to be a bigger thing if you stay horizontal than an application. But that's always not true. If you take Google, PeopleSoft, what happened in the industry, a vertical application also will work. Lately, getting a horizontal investment from VCs is usually very tough as a platform because they think that takes longer time, it takes longer investment. So at a Series A, Series B, if you go pitch them a horizontal story or a platform story, most people will shy unless that VC is willing to take risk with a 10x. So that is that vertical versus horizontal. You had another question in your question, which is vertical from an industry vertical perspective, right? That's another angle. So that's where it gets to another angle, which is once you start focusing even as an application or a platform.
You can't change easily.
Excuse me?
You can't change easily once you click.
Right. So once you're an application or a platform, the vertical industry, should I only call on, for example, telco companies? Should I only call on financial service industry or insurance services? So another horizontal vertical relation that people are thinking about these days is, I'll pick a vertical to build a thing. To me, I won't do that. That becomes even more so narrow focus. Then at that point, your company is, you over-constrain the problem to be a successful company. So I would try to be a vertical or a horizontal, but I will try to be much more broader to multiple industries when you're starting as a Series A. That's why if you see most companies, when they go beyond $1 billion, $2 billion, or $4 billion, that's when they start thinking about vertical sales force. Nobody does vertical sales force until your revenue is 2 to 3 billion. So even the VCs will ask you that. This is where you have to tell the VC he's wrong and go with your gut feel, right? You should push back because you're the entrepreneur, you're the founder. So sometimes you know the answers better than the investors in the room, and they are looking for that confidence from you and that educatedness from you.
So as an early stage startup, we were able to find a product market fit in the small and medium businesses space, and we see there is a sizable market. But from our experience reaching out to investors, they only want startups that are building products for enterprises. Because for enterprises, the ASP is higher. So what is your advice for startups that have found a product market fit in SMBs? Should they find enterprise customers while they are doing that? Or should they just focus on that and then maybe grow their revenues for a few millions and then seek external funding while bootstrapping?
So this is a very subjective question. It depends a lot on the problem, market, what you are doing. It's not like any one answer will solve it. So I think there are enough cases I've seen where people are only focused on SMBs are successful. There are people who are focused on mid-market successful. There are people who are focused on enterprise successful. And the converse is also true. Because you're only focused on SMB, you could never become a big player to an enterprise. Not successful is also there. I don't think investors are, if your goal is to convince an investor and you think that you have an idea on SMB and you're seeing a traction there, I don't think that investor will want to. Some investors may, but there will be enough other investors that will see that if there's a feature that you are creating with an SMB market, but your fundamental technology and vision can get to that, they can see that. It's about, all it goes back to your conviction, your vision, you telling the story, right? And you with the facts. So if you have a beachhead in SMB, if you want to go to enterprise, there's a path to get there. I'm sure they will understand.
Yeah, I have a question. So what advice do you give a person working as a job and he has an idea on an application, especially starting a startup with that application? And I know now applications have become more complicated and...
I didn't answer. What do you mean by application?
A consumer application.
Okay. Look, I never done consumer, so I'm the wrong guy to give you an advice or to talk about it. I only did enterprise companies. I can't talk about application front or consumer front. If you have an idea, if you have a passion, you should pursue it. Like, if you go back to my earlier slide, first of all, you have to understand, are you a risk taker or not, right? To me, I don't like to, my advice to, in general to startups is, if you have an idea and you're a risk taker, you quit your job first. You can't do double duty. You can't say, I'm doing a job and I'm going to do a startup and do this. And you may have to sacrifice family along the way, right? I mean, families go through a lot. Your families, your wife or your spouse, your kid, they're all part of your distinct journey. It's tough for everybody. So you're in this long haul. And don't make the decision and lose your job if you don't want to do that. But if you are in this and you have this thing, there's again a time to window of that opportunity sometimes. But people underestimate this time to window a lot. Sometimes they also overestimate it. So sometimes you think the market is going to happen faster. Market has much longer window. Sometimes market has much shorter window in some areas. So it's your decision whether is it right time for it or not. You have to study all those things. I don't know about consumer specifically, but in enterprise, differently, if you want to do something, you have to go all in once you decide.
So, one last question. So, So you said something which raised a question. So you said markets may take longer or shorter. So you have to make the decision. So let's take self-driving car, right? So we are all just listening to the news, or we just we don't know how long it'll take. So how would you make the decision? How would you make the decision or the bet in any of your markets when you don't know?
Look, you have to become what I call the student of the business. Let's say, take your example of connected car or automated cars. I mean, you have to first understand that business, right? I mean, you have to get into that business, work in that industry, work for a company in that industry, understand all the full ecosystem and the players, understand the whole manufacturing, suppliers, and what it takes to do it. And right, I mean, that's how you understand. And sometimes it takes an outside guy to come and disrupt it. I always believe that the person who is in the industry will never disrupt it, because whoever is there, he worked in that company, will continue to think the same way. An example, a person who is working at Tesla will always think that Tesla is the future. Tesla will fly also, he'll think. But whereas if you are from working at Uber, maybe you have a better concept than Tesla. So I think world always needs people from both sides. So I think in terms of the what is the timing, etc., unless you study the market, you'll never be able to tell. In some spaces, like take IoT, for example, IoT is not happening as fast. You definitely have time. I mean, whether you are talking to industrial complex, to the manufacturers out there, even the devices are not being retrofitted. Devices still are running on old VxWorks or something else, right? Even if they sense the data, I can't give the signal back to it. Do you think I can stop a rotor at a GE motor? Probably not, right? So these things takes much longer, so there you have time, right? Whereas if you're trying to do something in hedge fund trading or something in the like cloud or IT operations, those, it's happening now. You don't have much time, right? So you have to look at it depends, again, there also you have to go to subfields.
Awesome, Sudhakar. So this has been a great pleasure and exciting opportunity.
Good afternoon, guys.
Thank you.
So the next session is starting at 4:30. So please hang around and of course say hi to.
Not is if you can really automate things, like what's happening in the hedge fund industry, financial services, driverless car, or whatever, what we call connected car industry, or what happened in the cyber security. Right? In cybersecurity, you are not going to wait for China and Russia when they have militaries trying to attack you, having human beings to do it. And this is one of the things, 2-3 years back, financial industry make a bet. At one point, a large financial industry had 1,000 people in their SOC, in Security Operations Center. Today, if you walk in, barely have 10 people. Machines are going to defend them. They may still get hacked, but you're not going to throw human beings at it. Do you think you can find human beings who is going to respond as fast as the attacker with the bot from there? It's not going to happen. So the jobs will be eliminated, the automation is going to happen. That's where machine learning is coming. It's going to happen in every industry. It's going to happen in legal industry, it's going to happen in IT industry, it's going to happen in call center industry. It's going to happen in every space that you're going to think of. So find that wave and apply to that industry, right? So continuing on the same thought, I hear from customers and CEOs saying, you know what, I want my business to be algorithmic business. Capital One CEO said that. Goldman CEO said that, right? They're calling their business to be algorithm. Remember how Mark Anderson talked about software is eating the world? Right now, machines are eating the world. Our algorithm is going to eat it. What does it mean? It's going to replace human beings. Actually, 2016 was one of the first year where algorithm was written by an algorithm. Did you guys follow the Go experiment by Google? It happened around, I think, about March of last year, right? 2016, it will go in computer science history as the first time a software code is being written by a program, not a human being, while it's playing against an opponent. Huge. It didn't write it. It wrote a new source line code, compiled it and executed it. What does it mean? I don't need data scientists. I don't need programmers. We can achieve that. Maybe it'll take 20 years, 30 years, but it will happen. Right? So Monday, 80% will get eliminated. So people are going towards algorithmic businesses. Find the application, apply that. So don't just write a model that you will design. Maybe you will come with an algorithm that will write itself. It starts with its own state. But it will build its own, right? Other new things is edge computing. I use the word edge, but may not be the same buzzword or not, I don't know. But what does it mean? This is opposite of cloud. Cloud is 10 years old, right? If you really believe in IoT and this driverless car, you cannot keep talking to the cloud and downloading the data. It's not feasible. That means the reverse is going to happen now. Lots of data which has gravity and decision making will be at the edge. So it'll be anti-cloud thing may happen. It's a bet. It may not happen, but that's a risk taking that you want to bet on. Nobody's betting on it. If you now go to some business and say, I want to, cloud is death to cloud, like Mark Benioff called death to software, and I want to edge, I think a lot of people will listen to you. You better have some good thesis and reasons and what you want to do though. Right? To me, that's interesting. That's a game changer. That's a way that will happen. Other thing is, I call it, I use the word driverless, but what I'm saying is the whole IT industry that we know, the $1 trillion industry, will get decimated with cloud and IT operations. Everything will be going towards driverless, automated. I think the CIOs are saying eliminate anything that's done manually. What happened in the e-commerce industry, what happened in ad tech industry, financial services, we are seeing in the automobile industry, we are seeing it happen in security. Now it's cloud and IT. So IT that you know that where you look at an application, allocate a database, look at its performance, it's not going to happen like that. 5-10 years from now, there will be only 10%, 90% will be done by algorithms and the software program. Exceptions will go to the human beings. So that's on the top. So we talked about the thesis earlier, how to avoid the pitfalls, we talked go-to-market, we talked about the waves. The next topic is, look, at the end of the day, to be a successful startup, because that's the point of this whole presentation, right? Because it takes people, team, and also investors. It's your responsibility. You are an adult to find the right investor. You cannot come and complain and scream, change that, oh, he was being mean to me, he's bad to me. You have the right. You choose who you want. You should do homework. Right? Talk to people. The world will have good and bad. That's part of life. It's your responsibility that you should figure out who is a bad investor, who is a good investor. Do some research. Talk to other people. People will talk. Take other people who are entrepreneurs to their drink. Ask them. Maybe they'll give you an opinion, maybe not, but keep asking questions. Right? The idea is there's information out there, there are people out there, everybody's trying to help each other, right? That's the great thing about Silicon Valley. I'm sure all of us would want to help any fellow entrepreneur and fellow founder or fellow team member, right? That's the social enterprise we have created here, anywhere. So it's up to you, even though you have a great idea, great market fit, if you don't have the right investor, right board member, that's why it's not about venture firm, it's the individual who is going to be on your board. It's the right investor who is going to be there. What he and she wants to do it. Does he have an agenda or whatever it is, right? People will have the bad category, but it's your job to find the right investor. Then continuing on the investor, next thing is execution. So far we talked about idea, go to market, and assuming the right market waves, etc. Nothing will beat execution. Ideas can be there, you can pick the right thing, but if you are not a very diligent guy like what Steve Jobs said, everything is important, that success is in the detail, right? Details. You got to drill down to the smallest level possible. I mean, depending on your level of comfort, you should look at every single thing. Every stone should be not unturned, right? And other things that are important is work towards creating a value. You have to figure out, and the end of the great products are created by customers who love the product, who wants to buy the product, and for the customers, right? And that includes creating the value. If you don't wake up and creating a value, either to your shareholders, your team, or your customers, you're going to, at some point, going to have some calamity, right? And definitely don't plan for exit, right? When you are in execution mode, you are at such a low level of your pool, you are the bottom end of the pool, you don't have time to think about exit. You are 12 feet deep. That shouldn't come to your mind, that shouldn't come to people who are in your team or to your company. The moment, my rule of thumb is, if somebody talking about what's your exit plan, don't hire those people. It's not instant gratification you're in. You don't know the answer to it. He's going to be a cancer for you later on, or she. Then continuing on that same theme, how do we build great products and company? Start with the team. Again, that always goes back to the people, team, great products, listening to customers, right? And take a disruptive technology approach. You may fail. The probability of you succeed may be 1%. But those anomalies and those outliers is where the big companies are made, big opportunities. Right? And find that white space, which should not be a wedge, it should be big enough. Hoping a wedge in the market will become white space is a hope. Hope cannot be a strategy. Right? Again, I talk about the hockey stick, but if your revenues are not growing, everybody says my revenue is going not at 5%. If you are a startup company, your revenue should be going at 100, 200, 300%. Right? Cloud revenues in Amazon, any companies on cloud on Amazon, Azure, is going at 200 to 300%. Right? That's the growth rate per year. So if you have to look at yourself and say, okay, last year to this year, did my revenue grow by 200-300% or 10%? And just finally concluding it, I'm going to have a session for Q&A later on, so I want to wrap up this and we'll talk. I think this is just a summary slide. I think you guys, I kind of repeated many things there. You guys can read it. Again, it goes back to risk, reward, disruptive bets, innovation, creativity, be competitive, and also competition is important. Don't go into a market where you are the only one player. When I talk to some people, say, oh, I'm the only company there. The moment you say only company, I'm shut down, already done. Like you go to an exam, where you're in the exam hall, you're the only person. Imagine I come to speak and only one person is there. There's something wrong, and I look at Kandhar and say, what the heck am I doing here? Right? That doesn't work. You've got to figure out that. Right? You can't figure out, there has to be competition, there has to be a problem. There has to be money flowing there has to be a problem. These are simple common sense questions. You've got to talk to yourself. And last thing is go all in. You guys familiar with Las Vegas? It's a crapshoot. Startups are. You got like a poker game. You got to go all in. Every decision you are going there is all in. You should say, if I make this decision, if I shut down, is it good or bad for the company? And that is not just you. Is it good for you and all your employees, all your shareholders, both common, preferred, option holders? Every decision as a CEO founder, you got to take with a serious responsibility. Not something you should take it with light. Just work hard. The last point is, if you don't work hard in this day and age, there's somebody else. Somebody else could be in China, India, US, doesn't matter. Yes, we have 6 billion population in the world. Somebody is going to come out to you. Thank you. Hopefully it was good. All right. Awesome, Mike. Coordinates.
Yeah, so we can take a few questions now, and please raise your hand so that I can pass on the mic.
So
now you are working in service now, right? Now?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So this product, how you think the service product is going to go?
Repeat the question again.
How the service, this service now, how you think the service now product is going to be in coming years?
Good question. I'll take the mic. I mean, I'm not here to pitch ServiceNow. This is a not ServiceNow event, but just to give you an idea, ServiceNow is it's the second largest SaaS company. We are over $1 billion. We are the fastest growing SaaS company right now. We are growing at 50% or more than 50%. So from that perspective, what Frank Rootman, who is the CEO, has a vision there is, ServiceNow kind of embodies a lot of things. I am in charge for IT operation, cloud operation, DevOps, service analytics, etc. Is my purview. There are divisions which will do ITSM, which is help desk. There are divisions which are doing CSM. There are divisions which are doing HR. There are divisions which are doing security. So it's a pretty large SaaS company. I think SaaS and cloud is where the action is right now. So I think from that perspective, where what ServiceNow is doing is what customers want, deliver this everything as a service. And in that particular, if I can make IT as a service, simplify the problem, I will succeed in my mission and our company mission and what our shareholders want.
Thank you, Mudhu, very insightful. My question was about how you think about profitability or end profitability for startups, because of late, a lot of companies, I was surprised to find out some companies have taken 300 million, 200 million funding. So would you advise that we just take all the money we can and even Amazon is not making profit and then eventually somebody will buy us out?
So that's profitability is a different question than what I addressed. So to me, is again, if you're a startup from growth stage startup or early stage startup, I don't think you worry about profitability. You worry about profitability when you want to start filing for IPO. There are companies who even after IPO are not profitable, because profitability is again from the GAAP rules. The strict profitability comes because you're giving RSUs and stock options, right? You're recognizing that. So it's for non-GAAP, are you profitable or not? You want to look for is there a free cash flow? Are you cash flow positive? There are a lot of other metrics than profitability, because the strict profitability definition includes entire commission plan, entire stock option. So I'm not worried about that definition, but at some point as a company, you have to print money, right? When you go public. But from a startup perspective, what the thesis of this presentation is, profitability should not be in your equation, in the list of things you should worry about.
Next question.
So just based on your presentation, I feel that it's very hard to do a startup. You have to have to enter with the perspective that you're on.
That was not my intent. I think the question was based on what I presented. Is this our startups is hard to do? Probably not. I think if you don't know these things, you are entering a startup without knowing it. The purpose of this is to educate people to know the reality of what it is, and then you can avoid mind soup. I mean, one way is to think and say, okay, I don't want to know, I don't want to hear, I only want to think without knowing it. Second thing is, you know all these things, and maybe you'll come with a solution. Human beings, we're all creative people. You have so many ideas. I'm sure, once you know where you are, I'm sure you'll find a way to, it's like water take the least resistive path. Once you know it, I'm sure we'll find out how to do it.
So for a seed or an early stage company, providing SaaS-based pricing model, how important is the average recurring revenue, annual recurring revenue important? Because you want to make your price extremely low so that you can get more customers. So is it important to get a higher ARR so that you can get investors, or would you rather focus more on customer acquisition?
I mean, it depends a lot. There's no one standard answer there. In general, guys, the pricing model, how you charge, and whether it's a subscription service, whether you want to collect a yearly, monthly service, do you want to do it per click? That's a pricing model, and packaging, etc. The second question is, do we even want, once you have an ASP price, do you want to discount and give away a product for free, hoping that the customers will be there? I don't think so. To me, as a startup, if a customer doesn't like to pay for you for the value, then doesn't matter how many products you give, free will not solve the problem. So a good startup, customer is willing to pay you millions of dollars upfront itself. I've seen some startups where people will say, you have not built it based on your thinking and what you showed me, here is $1 million, go do it. So it's, if somebody doesn't want to part their money and doesn't want to give you the money even after build the product, and you are giving away, and then you are really pushing the elephant to that room that it doesn't fit. It's not going to work.
Next question. Is it fair to say
during the first year of a startup's life, maybe let's say 9 months after your initial prototype, after talking to customers, you've validated and you've built it. At least I'm running the company saying the focus is on references and we don't give it for free. And of course the price dispersion is there, we haven't optimized for revenue, we have optimized mostly for references. What is your advice to startups where you have a product that merits attention, where you want to cross the chasm?
That's a good question. It's kind of variation to his question, which is other thing is what I've seen it is in the to get a reference. If you want to use the product for free, that's perfectly okay with it. So, but you can't have 10 customers and say all 10 are references and they got free. Then we have a fundamental problem, right? I mean, you to get maybe first one you have to you're willing to build a product across not one customer, right? You're going to have 10, 20 customers you talk to, or maybe 100, and then you reduce that to 10 design partners on which you build a product. And out of those 10, you might say, 8 people will buy.
No, we didn't give it for free, but we didn't optimize for running.
Right.
We optimized for reference.
Yeah, when you say optimize again, if your optimization is to get all 10 references and you didn't give it free, that's great. I mean, if you didn't give it for free and you got references, I mean, it's a no-brainer decision at that point, right? I mean, you got the best of the both worlds. The customer is paying it, he's seeing the value, and he became references. What not to like about that?
It's not optimized.
If it's not optimized, then you should optimize it.
You could probably get more.
Yeah, then you should optimize. Look, optimization should not be for back to the number of 80-20, right? If you get 10 people to pay you, out of that 8 people paid the real optimized money and 2 people did not, that's okay. Or maybe 40, 60, whatever that number is. It can't be other way of saying that all the 8 to 9 people paid very low money and for the reference, then I don't buy that. There's something, you're really not asking the hard question at that point, something is not working for you. So you need a mic, I can walk there.
I can just ask her.
Oh, he's giving you a mic.
So my question was about partnerships. So most of the big players, like eventually, they may offer, like even if you take AWS, so it's always moving up the value chain, right? So tomorrow they'll offer AI also, and then they'll offer database, right? So, but you need them. So how do you weigh? Take IBM or take SAP, So how do you weigh how do you work with them where they don't eat you up?
That's it's a lengthy question, but I don't know if you guys were at AWS reInvent. AWS reInvent was a conference that Amazon organizes once a year. And Andy just at one of the events mentioned, right, he told all the VCs in a room, I mean, he basically declared war against VCs in the world. If you are a VC right now, you'll be scared to where to invest. You want to fight with Andy Jess, with Amazon. He said it also. If you are a startup trying to build one of the things on me, you assume that you're going to be dead and your money is lost. I mean, he told it to all the top VCs. So, exactly, I mean, if you are building a company on Amazon, for Amazon only, and trying to solve, let's say you're creating a better DynamoDB or better metrics database, or you're offering some analytics on it, or some visualization, or you want to do data warehouse on Amazon. You're going to, I mean, that's just a question of time you're going to die, because Amazon is innovating so fast, or Amazon or Azure, by the next reInvent, that is offered by them as a service. So when you are going to be in their marketplace as a partner, you better think of a much broader piece of a problem. That backs to what it's talk about product market fit and what you want to do. You can't be a feature. To me, those things are features. Remember I talked about the stack fallacy? Then that's exactly, so in the bottom of the stack, Amazon is here with the platform, you're just doing one of those. Maybe
welcome, Mrs. Lam.
All right, good afternoon, folks. Are you guys ready for some afternoon action, or feeling sleepy, or I'm between you and going home? I'm the filler here for you, maybe. All right. With this, I'm going to start giving you, I think what Kandara asked me is a few things. One is to talk about how to build successful startups. There's no one way, right? I mean, everybody has, it's your box of chocolates, right? So you pick your own choice and you like what it is. So I'll give you my thesis and what I think is, but it's something is evolving, it changes with time, it changes with market. So, but it gives you enough things to think about, hopefully. So one thing is, first you all have to think about, are you a risk taker are you a risk-averse person, right? I mean, startup is not for everybody. I think as this picture is showing, are you ready to cross the chasm? Are you ready to jump and take risk? That's very important. I think, particularly in a startup world, the more risk you take, more what I call your decision making should be that, because you're going after a larger market. That's what typically what I call the product also shows that. I mean, it's all in. Like, if you go back and think about what even Steve Jobs did, when he was at iMac, he had only a few years, or maybe less than a few months of money left, when he has to revive the entire company, right? So usually the great things comes out when you're close to the wall and you have very few capital and you have to make the decision. So it's always works out like that. The necessity is the mother of invention. So I personally believe that a lot in terms of decision making. Okay. Is this better? I'll do my best.
Yes,
Maybe up and down. All right. So to me, that's number one. Each of anybody who's want to do a startup, the first thing is to think about who you are and what you are, and that's something you may change, you may not change, but that's something you have to look in the mirror and yourself to decide what is that for you or not. Then the second thing is you have to decide why do you want to do it, right? Why pursue startup? It's not, I mean, if you don't wake up one day and say, I want to do a startup, there has to be something much more methodical, much more reasoning, much more passion behind why you want to do it. And everybody will have different reasons. But you've got to go through that answer, because once you are in that game, this is a long haul, right? And long haul means you're going to be doing it for 6 years, 10 years, there's no limit. You don't wake up and say, I want to do it for 1 year, 2 years. And you may also have some, like a David versus Goliath. I mean, you're going to find your own companies of the SAP to Google's to whichever space that you're going after, Microsoft, Amazon, right? You have to assume that in this day and age, you're going to compete with large incumbents, right? How are you going to fight with this, whatever, 800 or 8,000 pound gorillas, right? It's not going to be easy. But how do you create the white spaces? Why should you do it? And then you have to have the full, what I call, you have to indoctrinate to have that determination to never give up attitude. Because you will find difficulties. There may be 1,000 reasons every day you wake up and say, why am I doing this? But unless your core is to that state, you always will give up. So that's why you have to go through that idea before you start. So from what I've seen, risk takers, and once you have this question answered, then at least you start eliminating things. Because to me, startups are like walking through a landmine field, right? A field with a lot of mine. At every step, you're going to plant a landmine. You just have to figure out which one to avoid and how to avoid. It's not going to be easy. Then other thing that typically you start asking yourself is, startups are, once you know it's not easy, then you have to start thinking, why am I doing? How to innovate? Who you are and how to innovate and what are you doing, right? How to innovate when you have nothing? That's important, right? It's not that you are working there, you're writing the first .h lines or .jar file, you're writing first lines of the code, right? Whether maybe you'll borrow some open source, but you're building it from scratch. That's intimidating to a lot of people. How do you do it? How do you put those things together? How do I structure the project? How do you hire the first employee, right? All those things you should start thinking, what market should I go after? Should I go into an existing market?
What was that?
Somebody made some comment?
That was Siri.
Maybe Siri doesn't like what I'm saying. What new markets do we want to go after? And our existing markets, right? Sometimes it may be good to go into existing market where you want to evangelize. But you don't want to go to create a new market. Creating new market is challenging, but it also has rewards, right? Then the go-to-market. Traditionally, most technical people, all of us, we tend to we go to our sweet spot of what we are and what we like, right? It's natural, it's a human tendency, right? But go-to-market is as or 10 times more important than your idea and the product. You have to understand what channel, what's my pricing, what's my packaging. I'm going to touch upon later on in the presentation, but go-to-market is very important on how startups are not easy going to be. Then you have to think about product development team. How do you want to structure it? Is you as a founder, are you the right person to do the product management? Are you a VP of engineering or a CTO, right? You don't just pick up and, even though you're a founder, remember you want your baby to succeed. It's not that you wake up and say, if you're not the right person to the VP of engineering, you should say, you know what? Organize your roles like that. And that's usually very hardest. When people, a gang of 3 or 4 people join, everybody says, I'm the CEO, I'm CTO, VP of engineering, that doesn't work. You have to figure out who plays what role. What is that guy's skill set is and what is it? And you have to be honest to the God there. Why? Because this is your baby. If you make a wrong decision here, you will kill your own company. So your company should come first than your personal interest sometimes. And you have to look at exactly what role. And most people fall in that area a lot. A lot of startups fail there. Again, I'm giving you the ideas of potential pitfalls or mines, right? And finally, people. If you want to succeed, you got to be open and honest and hire the best people possible. Like people that I hire, usually I want them to be better than who I am. I'm not the best person in my companies ever. Right? I am good with my team. If you don't have the best A players and team that are good and better than you, and you want them to challenge you. You need to have open, honest, passionate debates with them. If that is purely indoctrinated like a military style, startups will fail. Right? You want them to open up, you want them to talk to you. Right? At the same time, the team also should be willing to take feedback back. Right? Once the people come in, this is not a place where I'm assuming most people are going to hire away age 21. Right? These are obviously adults. They are not minors. That means they should be able to willing to take feedback. In startup, there is no, if somebody joins and say, I want to have one-on-ones, and there's no psychotherapy sessions in startups. You are in this thing. If you don't like it, you quit. There's no one-on-ones and train you. There's no on-the-job training. A lot of employees come and join expecting that. No, you shouldn't be doing that. If you're there, you're given a problem at all, because as a company, you have to win the war outside, right? So these are something that I noticed it. So there may be a lot of other. I'm just highlighting a few things that I come across. Why innovation is hard then, right? It requires different culture, different people, and different motivations. That's why you don't hire. Definitely with what's happening is, when I say different people and different cultures, you really want people of various diversity backgrounds. You want people of all different expertise level. You may want a product manager, you may want a usability person, you may want sometimes a back-end person, maybe you want a product manager, you may want a salesperson day one in the job, right? So the broad making has to start with as diverse, as early as possible. You want to have people who are women as well as people who are men. So I've seen a lot of startups the first time people will be all men. That's definitely is not the right thing, right? It's very important that people go through all of that, right? Determination. Right? Do you have the determination to say and continue when you will get a no? There will be days you will get a no from every single person that you talk to, whether it's VCs, partners, and you think there's no light at the end of the tunnel. That's why you need to have the perseverance. You have to keep going. So you're almost like you need to have two personalities if you are the founder there, right? There are times you will be feeling lonely, but there's nobody else for you to talk to. But with the team, you have to be always giving them the motivation. If you are depressed and you have given up, what is the team going to do, right? Once you start this thing, you have the responsibility of not just for you, for the entire team and the company. You want them to be successful. Their families, they're all dependent on you, right? Then the undisrupted, the third point is undisrupted focus to success, right? You got to be focused. Most people write down a list of things what they want to do. I always write things what I do not want to do. You got to have a list of what things you prioritize on that day you don't want to do it. The elimination list is more important than what you want to do. Because there are only so many hours in a day you can do, right? Keep moving on. So other thing that's important is, as I said, we kind of started talking about I call it like 3-4 circles here. One of them is, let's say, team. We talk about team is the number one that I start for me. It's very important. The team will determine what product I build, what market I go after, with what type of customers I want. So team is very important. Second is there has to be market opportunity. There's no point building a product or a technology if the market doesn't demand. So this is where sometimes you have to think through, is it a market pull here? Or are you trying to push this thing into the market? Then comes the product. So don't create a product and technology looking for an opportunity or a team. Because if you don't start properly in this area, and all of them should be done in the same time, because maybe that team cannot solve this problem. Maybe that team cannot go after this market. So all these are so intertwined and dependent. So it's almost like an iteration. That's why you'll hear sometimes the founding teams may not work out. Sometimes the first 10 engineers are, because people are going through that experimentation, this iteration, right? But you want to converge to that state during the formation of the startup. You don't want to do that after you take your first Series A, spend 1 year or 2 years, because you can. But to me, there's no second chance in a startup. Once you go wrong, you spend a year or two, you're a dead man walking after that. it's a fixer-up company, right? You can never take a startup and re-spin it or re-up. Investors will like to do it because they want to collect them. Does not mean that it's going to work out. You can go look in history. 9 out of 10 or even 99% of those companies are dead at the end, right? You don't get a second chance. Whatever you created your DNA of this whole thing, you have to live with it, or if that is not successful, make changes early on. Here itself is too late. In Moore's law of the world of 18 months, VCs expect you, or market expects you to have a revenue at a run rate of 10 million. So from the idea stage to the product development to generating, otherwise you won't get the hockey stick. You're not going to go vertical. You don't want to start up going slowly for 100 years. The value this time people look for in 18 months, you want to reach a 10 million run rate. 18 months. Because in 18 months from now, whatever you started with, your assumptions are invalid. Technology is changing so fast. So far I give you the idea. So then let's talk about the go-to-market, right? So this is where I'm talking about moving from technology from deep IP to distribution channels, right? Very early on, once you have a product, you have to decide, you're not building an IP, you're building an application. You're going to sell this as a software, hardware, some component, right? Something, maybe it's a service. Who's going to sell? Or is it a go-to-market direct sales force? Do I need to sell it on the phone? Are there going to be a lead generation angle? Am I going to partners? Are there existing customers who have a solution to this? Am I going to use global SIs, channel partners, right? The distribution, how to go to market is very important. And if you drill down on that, it comes into multiple areas. It starts from, like, for example, as simple as what should be my pricing strategies, right? Should I charge it by what? By user, by node? What is it? By number of clicks? You got to think through all of that before you make the product. My pricing, my packaging, who should I partner with? Right? You got to, it's like a chess game. Who is going to be my friend? Who is going to be my enemy? You got to know that exactly. And you have to play that cards really well out. The reason you want to do that is you want that enemy to know where you stand and what's the white space. You have to figure out that white space, right? So it's very important to understand who are your partners, who are your competition, and keep your competition at close. Once you do that, that's when you go into product market fit. Don't start with the technology product and then say product market fit. You start with the go-to-market, what I want to do, who will I sell it, what's the price of those guys will be, how much should I charge? Is my go-to-market going to be a $50,000 salespeople on the phone with some commission? Or this be an OT, or the OTE of 300K to 400K? If I'm going to spend a 400K on each salesperson and I have 10 people, this product better be selling for $1 million ASP, or is it going to be 10K ASP? What's the point building this product and give it away for $10,000 to each customer? Is it $10,000 license fee? Is it a subscription? Is it per month? How am I going to service them? Like, one thing didn't happen in the industry for last 20, 30 years. There's no idea of this customer success. Every company is even talking about customer first. If you look at their CEOs, how many startup CEOs has a guy called, or a lady called customer success? Does customer success have a seat at the table? I have not seen it. I'm not seen for any venture-backed companies. That's so important. Because it's not just to build a product for somebody, you want to get the feedback from the customer, you want him to become your references. So you basically much decide, let's say I'm going to identify 10 customers, you're going to build a product around those 10. You don't build it for 100. And out of those 10, when you build it for that 18 months or 12 months, all those 10 people going to buy our product, out of those, how many will become our references and spokespersons? And how I'm going to curate them, how I'm going to nurture them. Usually nobody thinks about all of that in the early days of the startup. That's very important. If you don't get that, whatever I call X number of customers, and out of that 80% buy your product and all those 80% are your references, you're a pretty much dead company at that point. Because if your early guys don't be your references, and most often I see is they'll get 1 or 2 customers, you build a product on 1 customer or 2, and he or she may not even buy the product, and they may not be a reference. That's 90% of all the startups failures. So you don't want to do that. So the example I'm giving these things is just so that you want to avoid mine. You want to plan that. Other thing that's important, we are in the age of data. 10 itself is small. You should talk to at least 100 plus customers if you want to build a product. What about building a company? And you have to know everything about it. It's almost like a proctology examination. You got to know how the usability feature will be, what the UI screenshots will be, and talking to the customer about the transitions. That is not talking to one customer, 100 customers, and your spreadsheet should be 100 deep. If you don't have a PRD and a requirements document at that level, you're not applying the data-driven culture at all. The second thing important is product market fit. You don't want a product manager talking to your customers. You want to instrument the product. This day and age, I don't want the product manager to talk to customer. If your product is fully instrumented, I would know how exactly my users are doing. I want the data to tell me. He's on that page, he's clicking on the feature, he's using it for 2 seconds, etc. Whether it's a consumer or enterprise product, that means you implement analytics in the product. So the product manager should come to the meeting. Here is the data for our customer, how they are using it. That's not there. How many products have you seen on the day one version 1.0 has analytics built in the usage of the product? Right? These are simple concepts, but it should happen.
A question on that. As you know, startups are strapped for resources and money, and if you're solving a problem, won't you invest more on things that will help solve the problem and defer some of the implementation? Just love to hear your thought, because I'm dealing with a trade-off right now.
Good, very good question, very good comment. So yes and no. I think it all depends on what area you are in. Let's say if you are building it for, I'm going to pick a healthcare industry as a sample, and you have the luxury that you can collect your analytics of the data later on from the user. Probably you have the luxury maybe. But let's say if you are building this for a consumer type of application, or you are trying to do some kind of a SaaS or a cloud application, and you know what, analytics should be at the day one of the product, first line of the code. It's not a separate job. The way in which you ask the question is, it almost requires extra people to do it. That's why I want to personalize it. Answer, that should become the part of the architect and the developer. It's not, it's like you don't, same person who drinks the same water should drink this water also. And it doesn't take extra time though. That's my point, which is, if it takes, then you should sacrifice something else. Back to that question, what he should not do. There's also something called a stack fallacy. You should look into it. So the whole idea there is, how do we do innovation? This is getting into a little bit of how people think about building platforms and applications. It's very, very hard to go what I call from bottom up. It's easy to what they call top down. If you own the application, you know the customer, then you can keep on building downwards. Moving up is extremely hard to do it, right? So that's why you have to figure out, when you start the company, you got to figure out who you are and what layer you want to try to build the product. Are you trying to solve a component? Are you a database component? Are you messaging? You can't say, I'm going to be messaging and then I will become overnight an application company selling books like Amazon. Ain't going to happen. It's very hard. But if you are an application company selling books, coming down is much easier. So history shows that there are examples of it. Maybe there are examples of that may not be true. I'm just giving you an example of, usually the people have done enough work saying that coming down the stack than going up is easier. So you got to think about that at every level of what you do. So the next thing is catching the wave. There's no point trying to do certain industry like, right now if you wake up and say, I want to build a chip in semiconductor industry. I mean, I would say I'll call you the biggest risk taker. I salute you. But you know what? VCs won't give you the money. So you got to have some common sense, right? Yes, maybe there will be 1 or 2, but 99% won't do. The question is again, is customers are even going to buy it? Is there a semiconductor supply chain exist anymore in the valley? Can you even get access to your fabs at TSMC? Probably not, right? So what are the waves that you should look for? I think I'm just giving you some of the waves here for you to think about. Machine learning is a wave. It's not a buzzword. People are willing to, it's an economics that people are talking about.